Good afternoon, students. I welcome you all for the class. Today, in this session, we'll be going to start second unit, that is input-output organizations. Fine. Like in the previous classes, we have seen regarding the basic concepts of computer organization. Fine. From today's class, we'll be going to start regarding the input-output organization. So these are all the one of the functional component of a computer. Fine. The input output unit, memory unit, control unit, arithmetic and logical unit, all these are the functional parts of the computer, as we have already seen in the first unit. And in this second unit we'll be going to see how the input and outputs are going to be organized, how the input and outputs are going to be done in order to transfer the data, in order to communicate. Everything we'll be going to see in this unit 2. And in the unit 2, we'll be going to start with the input output interface, IO bus and interface models. These are the three topics that we are going to discuss in this today's session. Fine. So first of all, what is an IO interface? So what is an IO interface? As you all know, IO is nothing but input output unit. Fine. And interface is nothing but, what do you mean by an interface? So IO in the sense input and output, as you people already know. IO in the sense input and output. And what do you mean by an interface? So this is the important term that we are when we are going to talk regarding this input output organization. So what do you mean by an interface? In the sense, like actually speaking, this interface is a shared boundary. We can say it as a shared boundary where two or more components of a computer system can exchange the information. In order to exchange the information, so we'll be going to have this interface. Fine. In order to exchange the information, we are going to have this interface. So this exchange can be between a software and a computer hardware and a peripheral devices, humans, and a combination of these. So through any of the combination we can exchange the information, through a memory and the peripheral device, and through a software and a computer hardware, through humans or the peripheral device, whatever it may be. In order to exchange this information, we need a mediating device. That mediating device, we call it as an interface. So that is how we are talking regarding this interface. Fine. So when we are going to talk regarding this exchange of information, so in order to exchange information, we need two devices. Fine. It may be a peripheral devices, or it may be a CPU, or it may be a human, or it may be a peripheral device, whatever it may be. In order to exchange, or in order to share the data between two, we need two devices. So here we can see that hardware interfaces. So hardware interfaces will be there and software interfaces will be there. Like the hardware interfaces exist in many components such as buses, storage devices, IO devices. All these comes under the hardware interfaces. So when it comes to the software interfaces, when we are going to talk regarding this software interfaces, so here we have to talk regarding the applications or programs running on the operating system, which are going to interact through data streams or filters or pipelines, whatever it may be. So we don't go in that much depth. So what do you mean by an interface? In the sense, interface is nothing but a mediatory part in order to exchange the data or information between the two components. So that we call it as an interface. Here, input output interface. So this input output interface provides a method for transferring information between internal storage and external devices. Here internal storage in the sense we'll be going to talk regarding memory, and external IO in the sense we have to say that it is a peripheral devices. So IO devices which are connected externally, all those devices we say it as an peripheral devices. So peripheral devices connected to a computer need special communication link. Why? Because as we all know, our CPU or a computer is an which machine? This computer is an electronic machine. So as we have studied in the first year itself, computer is an electronic machine. So when we are going to connect with this computer, only electrical devices, if we connect electronic devices we connect, there is no need to uh, no need any sort of interface. Why? Because these are electronic signals and it is an electronic device, we can share it. For example, so you people are CSC students, fine. You people are CSC students. I am the CSC faculty. If I am telling you anything, you can understand very much easily. Why? Because we both are belongs to a same stream. Suppose if I am going to take this something a science student, and I am telling this all these things in the sense he couldn't understand the things it properly. There should be a medium between me and the science students. Why? Because in order to understand the things in a better way, some mediatory things is going to be needed. Some fusions are going to be needed. So in order to understand him better way, in the same manner, like if the computer is an electronic device and the output peripheral device is of an electronic device, there is no need a proper medium in order to change the signals. But when we are going to talk regarding the mm, peripheral devices, these peripheral devices are which type? These are of electromechanical or electromagnetic device. Here I have written. So these peripheral devices are electromechanical or electromagnetic device. But our computer is an electronic machine. Fine. But these signals are electrochemical, electromagnetic signals and electromechanical signals. So we can't transfer these signals to the electronic device. So there should be a proper medium in order to transfer this electronic signals to a electronic machine. So that is the differences. So the purpose of why we need a communication link in the sense, in order to resolve all these differences that existing between the computer and the peripheral devices, we need a communication link. So that is the main purpose why we are going to have the peripherals between the computer and the why we are going to have the interface between the computer and the peripheral devices. So as I have said you, the peripherals connected to a computer need special communication links for interfacing them with the central processing unit. So here the purpose of what is the purpose of this communication link? The purpose of the communication link is to resolve the differences that existing between the CPU and peripheral devices. What are the differences? First, there are many differences we are going to have. So we'll be going to study what are those differences that a CPU and a peripheral device is going to have. So the first and the foremost difference that it is going to have is the CPU is a electronic machine. This CPU is electronic machine. But when coming to the peripheral devices, these are electromagnetic devices or electromechanical devices. So we can't transfer this electromagnetic and electromechanical signals to the electronic machine. So that is the one major difference we will be going to have. So and another major difference is the data transfer rate of a peripherals. This peripheral device the data transfer rate is slow, but when the data transfer rate of CPU is very high. So in order to match these differences, we need to have the interface. So that is the another thing. And what is the third thing here? The data formats of a peripheral devices are very different. The formats. The third difference is format. The second difference is speed. Fine. So the formats. What are those formats? The formats for the peripheral different devices are different when compared with the formats of the our CPU. Fine. And the CPU and the memory format is different when compared with the peripheral devices. And next one is, what is the fourth difference we can say here? The modes of peripheral devices are different from each other. So the different modes of operations are going to be done for the peripheral devices. So different modes are going to be done for the CPU. So modes are going to be different. So these components are called as interface units because they interface between the processor and the peripheral device. So that is the importance of this interface unit. So without this interface unit, it is highly impossible to connect the two devices. So that is the importance of interfacing. I think you got what do you mean by an interface. So in order to have a communication link between two devices which are of different tracks, we need an interface in order to make them on the same track. That is the importance of the interface. So here this is the block diagram, or I can say the diagram of an IO interface. Here the processor is there, here the IO interface unit is there, and here the external device is there. So here the processor and the external device are used to communicate with each other by making use of this IO interface unit. So the processor is used to have a data bus, address bus and the control bus. Here the external device is going to have the data bus and the control bus. So whatever the external device connected to the processor having a unique ID. Suppose this is the having an address of 100. So if this processor wants to communicate with this peripheral device, it is going to keep the address of 100 on the address bus. Then this interface will look for the 100th peripheral device. So as it is the 100 at the address, so these both are going to be connected and they'll be going to transfer the data. Suppose if another peripheral device is connected over here, so its address is 200. If the CPU wants to connect to this peripheral devices, instead of 100 over here instead of 100 it is going to keep 200 address so that it can communicate over here. So that is how the interfaces are going to be done. So whatever the thing I have said you, the first one is the data transfer rate of peripherals is slower than the CPU. Data code formats are different, the modes are different. So in order to resolve these differences, computer system include special hardware components between the CPU and the peripheral devices. So those are called the interfaces, right? Next one is by IO bus and the interface modules. So what do you mean by a IO bus? And what are the interface modules? So IO bus and IO interface modules. So before this, we have discussed regarding this interface, right? So what is an interface and what is the why we are going to implement an interface between that we have seen. And now we'll be going to look after IO bus and interface modules. So first look at the diagram. So this is the link between the processor and the peripheral devices. So IO bus. So IO bus is nothing but input output bus. Fine, input output bus. So this IO bus consists of what? So data lines will be there, address lines will be there, and the control lines will be there. So here, so this IO bus consists of first one is data lines, next one is address lines, and next one is control lines. So this IO bus consists of all these three. So all these three combinedly, we say it as an IO bus. Fine. So here each peripheral device with these we all these called peripheral devices. Fine. All these are peripheral devices. So the keyboard and display terminal, the printer, this magnetics, all these are peripheral devices. Here each peripheral device should be associated with an interface unit. Why? Because as I have said you, our processor is an electronic machine. This processor is an electronic machine. When it comes to this keyboards and magnetic disks, there are electromagnetic and electromechanical machines. So in order to transfer the data from one format to another format, we are going to suppose to implement an interface. So this interface is attached with each and every peripheral device. Fine. So what the purpose of this interface is, each interface decode the address and control receive from the IO bus. This is the IO bus. So this is the address line, this is the data line, and this is the control line. Fine. So each interface, what is the task of this interface? This interface is used to decode. Fine. Decodes the address and the controls received from the IO bus. Suppose if the processor, suppose the address of this is 100, the address of this is 50, the address of this is 200. Suppose if the processor wants to communicate with the printer, it is going to keep an address of 50 on the address bus. Fine. 50 on the address bus. What the control bus is going to do is, it is going to identify that 50 and it will activate the interface, of this printer attached to it, with interface attached to a printer. Fine. So so it also synchronizes the data flow, and it also supervises the transfer between the peripherals. These are the peripherals and this is the processor. That is how, this is how we will be going to have the importance of an interface. Here each peripheral has its own controller that operates this electromechanical devices. So when, in order to communicate with a particular device, whether this device or this device or this device, in order to communicate with any particular device, here what the processor will do, the processor is going to place a device address, whether it may be a 50 or it may be a 100 or it may be a 200, to which it wants to communicate. It is going to place that address on the address line. Here I have kept the 50, that means the processor wants to communicate with the printer. Here this is going to place the address on the address line. So each interface attached to the IO bus. Here you can see. Here each interface attached to the IO bus contains the address decoder. So this address decoder is going to monitor the address to which it has to connect. So that is how they are going to interfacing with the peripheral devices with the processor. So when the interface detects its own address, 50 in the sense all will be connected now, 50 in the sense only this interface is going to react. Why? Because the address of this printer connected interface is 50, remaining will not react. Only this is going to react. Why? Because the address of this printer interface is 50. So it activates the path. Which path? It activates the path between this interface and the processor. Remaining will not activate. Only this is going to be activated. These three lines are going to be activated. So, and the device, it is going to do the necessary operation. So all peripherals whose address does not related. This 200 is not related. 100 is not related, so they are going to disable their interface. So this is how the interface is going to be connected between the peripherals and the processor. I think you got the information regarding the interface. Suppose if a CPU needs to communicate with the various IO devices, that means the data between the processor and the device flow. So we'll be going to have three main ways in which the system bus can be allotted to them. Fine. So what are the three different ways? So CPU needs to communicate with the various memory and input output devices. So we know data between the processor and these devices flow with the help of a system bus, as we have seen in the previous diagram. So there are three ways in which the system bus can be allotted to them. So by making use of the system bus only, they are going to communicate. Here we have seen, right? The processor is going to have the system bus. The system bus is nothing but the address bus, data bus, and the control bus. All these three we call it as a system bus. So by making use of the system bus only, they are going to communicate, right? So how there are three ways in which the system bus can be allocated to them. So what are the three ways? The first way is use two separate buses, one for the memory and one for the IO. So, in order to have a memory transfer, use one system bus. In order to have the IO transfer, use another system bus. So, that is the different system buses used. IO system bus and the memory system bus are going to be used. And the next one is use one common bus for both memory and IO but have a separate control lines. So one common bus in the sense here the address bus and data bus is common. Address bus and data bus is common, but the control bus is different. Use different control bus. This type of thing, what we call it as an isolated IO or memory mapped IO. Fine. This isolating the controls of IO, this thing we call it as an isolated IO or memory mapped IO. And the last one is use a common bus for memory and IO with common control lines. Common control lines we are use what we are saying, it is a memory mapped IO. So these are the three different ways. So these are the three different ways in which a system bus can be allocated to them. So previously how the system bus is allocated we have seen, and these are the three different ways which are very important in which a system bus can be allocated. The first one is as I have said you here, we have to use different two separate buses for memory and IO. The first one here, the first one is use two separate buses for memory and IO. So how we are going to use two separate buses? Here I am going to draw the diagram. Here, suppose this is the CPU, this is the CPU, and this is the memory. Fine. Here, two separate buses they have said, address bus, data bus, and the control bus. This is the address bus, this is the data bus, and this is the control bus. Fine. This is one processor, and here two separate control signals in the sense this is an for input for memory operations. We are going for the CPU and the memory. Here for IO operations we are going to make use of another processor which is known as input output processor. Here this is the central processing unit, this is one type of processor, and for IO operations, input output operations, we are going to make use of another processor called input output processor which is named as IOP. Here this is the memory. Here is the address bus, data bus, and the control bus. The first thing is the first system bus option is use two separate. Use two separate. They what they have said. Use two separate buses for memory and for the IO. So that is the one. So one for memory and another for the IO we have user. So this is the one type of using the system bus. And the next one is one common bus for both of them. Both of them in the sense address and data, we have to maintain one common bus, and separate control lines, that we call it as an isolated IO. So what is an isolated IO in the sense? Here in this block diagram you can see. So here uh, so address and the data bus are common, but the control bus is different. So isolated in the sense here address and data buses are common, and the control bus is different. So this we call it as an isolated IO. Address bus and data buses are common, and the control bus is different. Here then we have isolated IO over here, in which we have a common bus, that is the data bus and the address bus are going to be, these are going to be common for memory and for IO. So with the bold lines we have represented, the address bus and the data bus are common for both the memory and for IO devices. But the control bus signals are different. Here, what are the control signals for memory? Memory read and memory write. What are the control signals for IO? Here, IO read and IO write. So the control signals for memory are different, that is memory read and memory write, and the control signals for IO are different, that is IO read and IO write. Suppose if the when the CPU decode instruction, then if the data is for IO, suppose here the CPU is there, right? These are connected to CPU. If CPU decodes the instruction, then if the data is for IO, what it is going to do? It places the address on the address line and set IO read or IO write line command. Uh, Here, suppose for example, this something I want to write the data 600. The address of this IO is 600. The memory is 200. If something I want to do with the IO, so here the CPU is going to keep 600 address on the address bus. Then what it is going to do? Here the IO device is going to be activated. This IO is going to be activated. So so what it wants to do? It wants to read or it wants to write, in the sense the control, what IO read or IO write. If it wants to perform a read operation, this IO read signal is going to be activated. So when it is going to be activated, then it is going to perform IO read operation. If it wants to perform write, in the sense it is going to activate the write signal, then it is going to perform IO write operation. So if the CPU wants to communicate with the memory, so if the CPU wants to communicate with the memory, so here it is going to keep 200. 200 in the sense, so it is going to activate the memory. So it is going to activate the memory. Which operation it want to perform? This control signal will tell the which operation, whether it may be a read operation or whether it may be a write operation. So this is how the drawback of you see here previously we have seen here, suppose two separate address buses, in the sense like we'll be not going to have any common thing, but here when we are going to see here, we'll be going to have a common address bus and data bus for common for both between the memory and the IO, and the control buses are different. So this is how the isolated IO is going to be working. So when it comes to the memory mapped IO, when you have seen the diagram here, in this case every bus is common, due to which the here these address bus, data bus and control bus, all three are common to both IO and memory. there is no separate buses. Here both address bus, data bus and the control bus are common for both IO and the memory. So to which a same set of instructions. Why? Because here in this it is common due to which the same set of instructions work for both the memory and the IO. Same set will be going to work. Same set of instructions will be going to work for both memory and IO. Hence, we manipulate IO same as memory and both the same address space. Why? Because we'll be going to have the less amount of space occupied by the IO. Most of the part will be going for the memory, but only less amount of space will be occupied by the IO device. Here there is no differentiation. This we will be going to call it as a memory mapped IO. Why? Because the memory is mapping with the IO over here. Memory is having the major major space and IO is going to have the less space. So we'll be going to have a major part of the memory and less is part of the IO part over here. Here the address bus, data bus and control bus are common for both the IO and the memory. Same set of instructions are going to be used for both IO and memory. So this is how IO mapped IO and I mean isolated IO and memory mapped IO are going to be done. Now we'll be going to see the differences between the isolated IO and the memory mapped IO. So as we have seen in the previous diagrams, memory and IO have separate address space over here. Here memory mapped IO both are going to have the same address space. All address can be used by the memory. Due to addition of IO address, memory becomes less for the memory. Here separate instructions control read for write operation in IO. Here same instructions will be there for both the IO and the memory. Fine. In this, in isolated IO address are called ports. Here normally memory address for both of them. No need to call as ports. This is more efficient due to separate buses. It is less efficient. Why? Because the buses are common for both the address bus and the for both the IO and the memory. Here large in size due to more number of buses. Why? Because we are going to have a separate buses. Here small in size. Why? Because the buses are in common. It is complex due to separate logic. This is simple. Why? Because all buses are treated for both the memory as well as the IO. So these are the differences between the memory mapped IO and the IO mapped IO. So today what we have seen? We have seen the introduction part of we have seen what is an interface. So interface is a communication link between two devices. Why we need an interface? In the sense our computer is an electronic device and the peripheral devices may be of electromagnetic or electromechanical. So we can't communicate with the two different formats. So in order to make the two different formats to communicate, we need an interfacing device. So we have seen the CPU can communicate in three ways. Like we are going to make use of two separate buses. So one is the CPU with the memory and input output processor with the memory. Two separate buses we have seen. And next one is the address bus and data bus are common, but the control buses are different. So that is the isolated IO. We call it as an isolated IO. And the memory mapped IO is all the three buses are common for both the memory as well as the IO. But here in memory mapped IO is going to occupy a less space when compared with the memory. So these are the things that we have discussed today. Hope you got the concept and what is an interface and what are the different ways in order to communicate with the interfaces. Fine. That's all for today's class, students. Have a great day.